To the Roy Morgan Weekly Update, and the news this week has included Prime Minister Anthony Albanese kicking off the Yes campaign for The Voice, and Liberal candidates jockeying for position in the upcoming Aston by-election on April the 1st, and New South Wales facing an election next month, with 2 government MPs resigning last week due to separate scandals. But first, a look at the key weekly indicators, starting with consumer confidence. After a big decline a week ago, following the Reserve Bank's 9th consecutive interest rate rise, consumer confidence recovered slightly this week, up 2.3 points to 80.4. And looking back at how consumer confidence has reacted following Reserve Bank interest rate rises is instructive. The measure, consumer confidence, has fallen by an average of 2.3 points after each Reserve Bank interest rate increase, and then recovered the following week by an average of 0.7 points as the initial shock of the increase recedes. That's an average decline of 1.6 points for every rate increase. Inflation expectations were down significantly this week by 0.4 percentage points to 5.1%. So inflation expectations measure what consumers expect the prices to rise by annually over the next couple of years. And so far, consumers seem to have a good sense of what's to come. And we at Roy Morgan use it as a lead indicator. During 2023, inflation expectations have averaged 5.3%, significantly below the peak of 6.8% reached in November last year, and on a monthly basis have been trending down since November. That's good news for the economy. Support for the Albanese government strengthened this week, up 2 percentage points to 58.5, and well ahead of the coalition on only 41.5 on a two-party preferred basis. In addition, the Roy Morgan government confidence rating has increased slightly, up 1.5 points to 102. Now, 42.5% of Australians say the country's heading in the right direction, and 40.5% say the country's heading in the wrong direction, so slightly more positive than negative. Now back to consumer confidence. Consumer confidence increased this week across all categories of housing status and was up most by 3.1 points to 73.8 for people paying off their home after a huge plunge a week ago. Nevertheless, consumer confidence for this group, that's mortgage holders, is still 27.6 points lower than what it was before the Reserve Bank started raising interest rates in May of last year. A far greater fall than for either homeowners or renters. Now, a driver of this week's increase in consumer confidence was sentiment around whether now is a good or a bad time to buy major household items. Only 20% of Australians say now is a good time to buy major household items. That's up 3% from a week ago, while a majority, 51%, down 3% in a week, say it's a bad time to buy major household items. That's a net reading of minus 31. So despite the improvement, the up 3% in the positive and the down 3% in the negative, despite that improvement, this is one of the lowest ever readings for this indicator, and among the lowest since the very start of the pandemic, when the first lockdown began and when the indicator reached a record low of minus 47.9. Very few people thought that was a good time to buy major goods. The question over the next few weeks is whether this small improvement will continue. Turning now to state politics, and the focus is on New South Wales as the state prepares to go to the polls in just over a month on the last Saturday of March. The latest Roy Morgan poll on New South Wales voting intention, conducted throughout January, shows the contest between the Liberal National Coalition government, led by Premier Dominic Perrottet, and the ALP opposition leader, Chris Minns, narrowing, as we would expect. On a two-party preferred basis, the ALP is on 52%, down 3% from December, and now just ahead of the coalition on 48%, up 3% from December. The New South Wales election is definitely still up for grabs with just over a month to go. It'll go down to preferences or deals with minor parties and independents to form a government. The trends here are echoing the same trends that we saw at last year's federal election. At the federal election, we saw a record high 31.7% of Australians vote for minor parties or independents. The current primary voting support in New South Wales shows the Coalition on 35%, ahead of the ALP on 32.5%, and another 32.5% of electors supporting a minor party or independent. That's nearly a third of all electors. The two key minor parties clearly are the Greens, attracting 9.5% of support, and One Nation on 6.5%, up 2 points in a month. This is the highest level of support for One Nation in New South Wales for over 20 years, since the party scored over 7.5% at the 1999 New South Wales state election. One Nation had a good month in January as former sitting MP Tanya Mikulak, who left the Labor Party in 2022, decided to join One Nation and run for re-election. Next month in mid-March, we'll present a special New South Wales election webinar looking at the trust and distrust of New South Wales Premier Dominic Perrottet and opposition leader Chris Minns. The latest Roy Morgan poll released today shows this election is set to be a tight one. And that's a wrap for this week. Subscribe for free to our Roy Morgan YouTube channel for all the latest political, economic and market research data and insights. Thanks for listening today, and I look forward to bringing you the latest data on consumer confidence, inflation expectations and voting intentions again next week. Take care and see you next Tuesday.